Hi, I'm Kevin Keeler, and welcome to HCTV. I want to welcome all the viewers on the public access TV channels and also out in YouTube. We're here today for a special event. We just are finishing up a ghost sign respectful restoration in downtown Helena. And I have with me today kind of the honor of introducing Jock Palmquist. Jock and the Palmquist family and the Wallys family just got done restoring a ghost sign in downtown Helena on Last Chance Gulch. So welcome, Jock.
Thanks, Kevin. Glad to be here.
You betcha. A little history. Jock and I go back 30 years. I first met Jock when I was mowing lawns going to Carroll. So we have a little history there. So it's kind of fun to get back and do something for downtown Helena.
Yes, it is. We appreciate your involvement, too.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, our story is one of an old ghost sign, and it involves Palmquist Electric, and Jock and I will talk about that history, but I want to give you guys a little overview of why we're here today. We restored a ghost sign, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, ghost signs are the old billboards that were on buildings 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, in some cases 100 years ago. And the term ghost sign is one in which means exactly what it says, is the sign is becoming a ghost. It's fading away. So there's an effort out, not only in Helena, but across the country, of preserving this outdoor advertising. And ironically, this outdoor advertising has now evolved into what is public art. And so there is a concern about what do we do to preserve the public art? What do we do to preserve our heritage? And so the Palmquist and Wallys family decided that they would hire a professional and come in and respectfully restore the ghost sign. And so that's why we are here today talking with you and giving you a little bit of information about our project, about the ghost signs, and how fun it is once you see this project completed. Jock, let's talk a little bit about the history of Palmquist Electric.
Well, it was started by my grandfather, E.J. Palmquist, in about 1925, and throughout that period he did primarily electrical contracting, and then over the years he got into the appliances, and that's how this sign evolved. It's got Westinghouse appliances on it with several products below it, so it's been interesting. The business was in business for 58 years, and he retired in 1965, and the business was sold in 1974, I think. 1974. Mm-hmm.
So part of the parameter of a ghost sign, one of those qualifications is the businesses need to be out of business for a certain amount of time. I think it was 50 years, wasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
That's Helena's ordinance, and other cities might have other different times in which that happens. But basically, what's happening here is that these businesses are no longer in business, and they were a big part of the community 50, 60, 70 years ago. So what had happened, your location was on Last Chance Gulch.
That's correct.
But at that time it was called Main Street.
Yes.
And in the 1920s, Main Street downtown Helena was a two-way street.
Right.
For those of you unfamiliar with our Main Street is called Last Chance Gulch. And it's a one-way street, and that pretty much came out of urban renewal project in the 1970s. Prior to that, it was a two-way street. And so the sign that we restored is on the south-facing side. So you would be going north up what was Main Street, and it was a very prominent sign, a beautiful sign. Westinghouse is on there, the logo of the company that they used exclusively for the electronics, the stoves, right, washing machines, dryers when they came about.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, did they do any electrical contracting?
Yeah, he did electrical contracting. He was involved in the two wings of the State Capitol building, Eagles Manor, and several projects outside of Helena, including La Junta Air Force Base down in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And he had a brother, Carl, who he and Ernie worked together as apprentices in the early years at Current Electric, which was located across from the Montana Club. And Carl branched off and started Palmquist Electric in Great Falls.
Oh, okay.
And it was very family-oriented. There were 3 families that lived within about 4 blocks of where May and Ernie lived. And in addition, my great-grandmother lived in the same area. So it was kind of the focal point for the families, and we always got together and celebrated birthdays, Easter, you know, everything. And he had 3 children, my dad, Jack, Peg, Marguerite, and then Buzz. And from that, there were 9 grandchildren. And today there are 8 living. And the 8 of us got together. Kevin called me, and I think in 2015, and talked about the sign. And grandkids looked at it, said, "Yeah, we'd love to do it." So from that, it went to organizing, which Kevin knew a lot about, doing the Eddie's Bread sign. And we've had a tremendous outpouring of interest and funds from grandkids, great-grandkids, and the great-great-grandkids. So it's been a lot of fun. We were able to put it together with Kevin's help. And also, I'd like to thank the Plaza, Park Plaza Incorporated, Sid Godolphin and Fred Flanders, and Rogers Little of Carriage House Condos, who has the lot that allowed us to relocate some cars. And I'm missing somebody. I can't remember. The third one would be, Wells Fargo Bank, Randy Riley. We located about 9 cars back onto their lot for temporary for about 4 days. But those folks have been very helpful.
Yeah.
Starbucks Coffee, Bert and Ernie's, and of course the Bannister Bed and Breakfast.
Yeah.
All great people to help us out.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of gave the viewer an overview of the logistics that were involved in putting this together. Nancy Bennett, she is from Centerville, Iowa. I first met her 5 years ago when we restored the Eddie's Bread sign, and we got in touch with Nancy again for this Palmquist restoration. And Nancy Bennett is nationally recognized, in fact, internationally recognized. She had just got back from Holland, where she helped do some old signs. And Nancy has done restoration of old sign work, mainly in the Midwest and back east. And that's where a lot of these signs are. Now, Helena is unique in the sense that we're an old town. We're, 150 years plus. And so we're in a unique position where we have some old ghost signs. And so this is part of the idea of beautifying what is already a beautiful downtown area. If you haven't been to Helena, I wish you to come. Please come on down. It's a very nice, walkable downtown, and the signs, these ghost signs, are going to be hopefully part of a walkability of downtown Helena and make it an attraction. A lot of these ghost signs that we have in downtown Helena can only be accessed by walking.
That's right.
And the Palmquist sign is a very good example of that. It's a prominent location right off of Last Chance Gulch, again Main Street, and then Lawrence Avenue, which was one of the first avenues that was cut into the hill when Helena started to branch out to the east. Mm-hmm. So it's an old center of the city and prominent. And so we're happy to put some beautification.
We've always appreciated downtown area. The family has a lot of history down there. We've all grown up in Helena, and to contribute to the downtown area, the historical area down there is just one of the pluses that we've been able to come out of this restoration. And it's been a very great project. A lot of hard work went into it with Kevin and the other people contributed to it. And I think we're all excited. We've finished it, and now the family can enjoy that heritage for many years to come.
That's part of the goal here with the outdoor signs, is to not go in there and create a brand new sign. That's not what we're after at all. What we want to do is capture that time past. And so the idea here is to have a sign that looks old. But signs ultimately are for a message. And a lot of times these ghost signs lose their meaning because you don't know what is being said. It's all faded away. And so, the first rule here is to take a look at what information was on that sign and bring that back. But we want to bring it back with integrity. We want to bring it back so that it looks old. The last thing we want is a new old sign. And so Nancy is an expert at this. In fact, we're finishing it up right now. We've got about 3 different balls in the air as we're talking today. We're finishing up the sign. We're going to be cleaning up that area. They're going to be clear coating it, and putting a sealant on there. And it's going to be a wonderful addition to the 400 block.
And you bring up a good point. Wall Dog Public Art, you can get on their website and see all the work they've done. And then, of course, we're fortunate we have a website which is called Palmquist Ghost Sign Restoration, that you can view the process we've gone through.
Yeah, that's Facebook.
Yes, Facebook.
Yeah, the Facebook on there. Yeah,
yeah.
and that social media is a great way to take a look at our progress, because what we've done is posted pictures throughout the 3 days of work that we've done. And so I encourage everybody to get out there and like the Facebook page. And if you know of any other ghost sign websites, please link it to that, because ultimately we want to get the message out that saving these signs is really a challenge. And if we don't do anything, they're just going to fade away. And so it's important that we take a look at our surroundings in our community and see what we can do to preserve these signs.
I'm always surprised, living in Helena most of my life, I never knew there were so many signs until Nancy and Jim showed up, and walking around looking at them. There are just an immense number of signs that are in Helena that talk about the old times of Helena and the businesses that were there.
Yeah. Well, we had mentioned this prior, but outdoor advertising is that. It was outdoor advertising, and this is where the people were. And in the 70s and the early 80s, by the time the interstates were set in, and it took that long for the interstates to become complete. A project started in the 1950s. So from that 1950s into the 1970s, you saw these billboards go to where the cars were.
Yeah.
So they migrated to the interstates, they migrated to the suburbs, and the inner cities and the cities with the signs were kind of just ignored or left alone. And now there's a big surge, I think. I think there's a big surge, at least, talking with Nancy, to see about restoring these signs. And some communities in the Midwest have dedicated a couple of weeks to restoration, and they see this as a tourist attraction, and I firmly believe that's the truth.
Yeah.
They're beautiful outdoor signs. Craftsmen and artisans working on these things, it's amazing. And in some cases, you wonder how the sign even got painted in some of those buildings. If we want to reference Butte, Montana, and take a look at down there, there's another good city with old signs. Some of those signs are extremely high, and like the Eddie's Bread sign, we were 40 feet in the air. Not me, but Nancy and Jim were, quite a ways up in the air. And I'll tell you what, the Wall Dogs, or the painter who painted that, didn't have a crane. So when you take a look at these signs, sometimes you wonder how they got there in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, Jock, I want to talk a little bit about the, how we got to where we are today.
Yeah.
We started this project in 2015 with a phone call, and there was some interest, and I thought there would be. I mean, growing up in Helena and supporting Helena and understanding all the changes that have evolved in your lifetime are tremendous.
Yeah.
And so talking with your family, getting them together. We started this in 2015. You went to a family reunion.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that.
Well, we had a family reunion last August out in the Kellogg area.
Kellogg, Idaho.
Kellogg, Idaho. We we do one about every 3 to 5 years, I think. And at that time, we had kind of the mechanism put together with Kevin's help. And at that time, we presented it to the other 8 grandchildren, and they were all in favor of it. So we started to work a little bit harder through the winter and developed a list of things that we needed to do. We had a lift to provide. We had to get permission to use the lot, get the building owners online, and then relocate the cars. And then, of course, we had to tie down the equipment. And once we got that done, which we probably ended up more in July, getting it all tied down, my cousin Blaine Palmquist, Buzz's son, was also integral in this system, in this process, and it started to evolve. Next thing we know, we're getting them off the airplane and starting their work, and it's been a 3-day rush. It really has. It's been a lot of fun, and they're tremendous people. They have a lot of background, and I gained quite an understanding of how signs are painted and what to look for. And so I'm very interested in working with Kevin and seeing if we can't get some more signs done in Helena.
Yeah, I think that's an achievable goal. I think it's unique that the family paid for it, and I'll just say that. The family, right down to the kids in their piggy bank. Everybody figured out what was a fair amount to chip in, and so the family, paid for it. And that's a wonderful thing. And I think it really shows how Helena is unique in community. Simply, that speaks volumes.
Well, we've had people walking down the sidewalk. They're just thrilled to have it. They knew the sign was there, but they didn't really pay attention to what the sign was all about.
Yeah,
and now we've got that image out there, and it explains a little bit, and it has been a great time.
Yeah, it has been a great time. A lot of work, a lot of organization, because we had to hit the ground running when the artists were, when we got them off the plane, so everything had to be in order. And there were a lot of, I's to dot and T's to cross, and
a lot of meetings.
Yeah. But that's how these projects go. And like Blaine said, it's going like clockwork.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for that.
Yeah, and Blaine would know.
And Blaine would know. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Wallys side of that, because you've got really basically 2 families there.
As I mentioned, there were 3 children by Ernie, and one of them was Marguerite or Peg, and they lived here in Helena until about 1959. Well, before that, she married Ben Wally, who was from the Boulder, Montana area, and they had 2 boys, Brian and Ben the third, whose nickname is Cork. And of course, they moved away in 1959 when he worked for the IRS. They relocated into Burlingame, California. But they came back year after year, and Ernie had built a cabin up at Flesher Pass, family cabin. They would come back and visit and stay up there. They were, and Peg was very interested in seeing the sign restored. So unfortunately, she passed away a year ago last July. I didn't see it, but she's still involved in it indirectly. So
and she got to know about it.
Yeah,
too.
she knew about it. She probably was more the instigator of this sign restoration than I thought. After remembering back a while, she was really very interested in having it done. So I have a great deal of things, and she knows a lot about the family history too. So that was incorporated into our talks.
Well, as we grow older, history seems to be more of a on our minds per se, and
Yes.
that evolution in time makes us appreciate where we've come from.
Yeah, and we lose it as we get a little bit older too. So we need to pass it on.
That's true.
And this sign will help develop that with there's 6 generations of Palmquists and Wallys that have been around this town.
Yeah,
so.
And we're doing it right. We have professionals doing it, and this is something that will be priceless. And the family should be proud of, and you should be proud of this accomplishment.
So. We are now, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we're happy that it's getting completed. And so we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for watching. And if you're in Helena, please start taking a walking tour of all the ghost signs in downtown Helena. And the next time that you visit the capital city of Montana, get out of your car and walk our downtown and check out our ghost signs. Thanks a lot for viewing. We'll talk to you later.